this week's men's basketball press conference with head coach Eric Peterson. The road trip this week for the Yotes at Denver and at Oral Roberts. And with that, we'll open it up with comments from Coach and then jump to the media from there. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, obviously in a bye week, it's been a while since we played, so I'll probably just open it up to questions right away.
Who would like to go first?
I can go.
Jay.
Talking about the bye, Petey, you talked a little bit about last week about how many games you'd had in a pretty short window, legs being fried. Obviously, that's a huge piece of it, just getting some time off, but pretty critical couple of weeks coming up here. Do you feel like, that just how big of an advantage is it to be able to get that time right now?
Yeah, huge. You have the bye the first week of the season, and then you have it with 3 weeks left. So we played a lot of games and haven't really had a break. And I was just kind of going through, I document every practice on an Excel sheet and just kind of looking at the dates and going through it. And it's like, man, it's been a while since we've just been able to work on ourselves and try to get better. We had a chance to do that on Friday and another chance to do that today here in the next hour or so. But we always say the legs feed the coyotes, and when your legs go, it's hard. And never going to make excuses for our guys. Did they go through a tough stretch? Yeah, 5 games in 13 days. And everyone's like, man, you guys just didn't shoot it very well against UND. And part of it was the way they play. Try to speed you up, pressure deny, just try to make it chaos in the half court. So, yes, that had something to do with it. But our guys were gassed and needed a break for sure. So, had the weekend off, which has been a long time since we've had a weekend off. And I think it's big going into the final 2 weeks of the season. First time we've played back-to-back on the road. Thursday, Saturday, like the same swing. We've been able to do it and come home. Like went to UMKC, came home, and then went to South Dakota State. But we'll be gone from Wednesday through Sunday. So huge stretch for us to try to get those 2 games. Denver's been playing great. Oral Roberts got their first conference win, and then you got Omaha, who's been playing really, really well, and then South Dakota State at home to finish, which rivalry game they'll be ready to play. So big stretch coming up, and this is a great time for a bye for us.
You talk a little bit about Denver specifically just because they're next. Tim's got them playing pretty well. Kind of got a surge here of late. What are they doing better than they were when you saw them the first time?
Yeah, they've obviously gotten better defensively. I think the first time we played them, or around the first time, they were one of the worst defensive teams in the country. They're slowly improving, and I know sometimes the numbers don't look that much better, but we take it by last 5 games is kind of how I look at the stats. Who's playing well the last 5 games? What are their numbers? And so they're getting better defensively. They're playing a few more guys than the last time we played them, which I thought it was tough when they went from South Dakota State to our place. And, they didn't play their bench a lot of minutes, so they're finding some ways to play some more guys here and there. I'm not saying they're playing them, 20 minutes, but they're throwing 9 guys in there instead of, 7 consistently. And Bergie's a good coach. I think they run some really good stuff. They get their best players the ball in situations that they can score. And I always say this, but first-year head coach at Denver, it takes a little bit with the team that you have, right? And the sign of a good coach is continuing to get better throughout the season. And that's why I say he's a really good coach, because they're clearly getting better, and you can see that. So credit to them. He's done a really good job with the guys that he's had, and he's finding a way to play a few more guys and obviously win some tough games.
Just talk about a little bit more on Cam, too, and I know, he's in the middle of a monster year, but just kind of, is there anything extra that he brings that isn't abundantly clear based on how many dunks he has or how many rebounds he has, just to kind of complete the package for you with what he's done this year?
Yeah, I would say the intangible things is what Cam is really good at. He's got a great attitude every day. He shows up at practice. He smiles. Obviously, he loves when we go Country Friday and play country music for him, which we did on Friday. He's become a much better leader. I think he's just kind of calmed the guys around him. Anytime you can throw the ball in the post, it kind of just, when you have some young guards, it kind of just relaxes them a little bit where they don't have to feel like they have to do everything. And obviously Cam is such a good player, it just gets him open shots. So it's, everybody can see what Cam does on the floor, but I think, just his leadership, he's a senior, what he brings to practice every day, and then, just the calming effect that he has on people, I think is the biggest thing.
Is there anything specific he's doing in the leadership realm that's improved or different than it was a year ago? Or?
Just being more vocal. I think, last year, Jay, everything was new. You go to UIC, you play a little bit your first year, second year you don't play really much at all, and then he comes to our system and he's pressing and it's really fast paced and there's a lot of stuff going on where in your first year you're trying to really process things and make sure you don't mess up. And I mean, that's like, you see that a lot with transfers. They don't want to mess anything up. Where, now things have really slowed down for Cam. I think he understands what we're trying to do. It's been more of a half-court game, so we can keep him around the rim so he's not just gassed all the time. And when you're not just on your knees, just, bent over, gassed, you can talk and lead your team. And, so I think just having some younger guys around him too, I think he realized that, he was a young guy early in his career and didn't have a lot of success at UIC. And I think just, he understands how important that leadership role is, but just way more communication at practice, asking things that he probably wouldn't ask last year or seeing something that, maybe our staff didn't see. And it's like, hey, what about this? And you're like, yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. And then you throw it in there and it works. And so I always feel like just empowering your players and trusting them. There's timeouts where I look at him and I say, Cam, how do you want the ball? What block do you want the ball on? And what play do you want me to run for you? And he'll say it and we'll do it and he'll usually score. So, and that wasn't something he would do last year, Jay. So everything's really slowed down for him. Obviously he's in better shape, not pressing, not playing as fast. I think has really helped him.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Trey, go ahead.
Perfect. Coach, with 4 regular season games remaining, just how important is this final stretch in terms of, momentum and overall positioning for the Summer League tournament? And how much of an emphasis are you kind of placing on seeding right now for the tournament too?
What I would say is every game's important. And if somebody tells you it's not, they're lying. Every game's important. I think a lot of people look at it like, man, it comes down to these 4 games. Well, we've had some chances. We've lost to the 3 teams that have been above us in league play, and I guess Omaha's above us now too. So that was disappointing, but we know we're right in the thick of it where, we could be as high as probably 4th or as low as maybe 7. So I think that's a huge difference where if you're a 7 and you're playing a 2 or a 6 and playing a 3 versus playing the 4-5, I think that's a massive difference. So I know how important these games are. Our team does too. It's a tough stretch going to Denver and Oral Roberts, and you go from elevation to fly to Tulsa. It's not an easy trip. So, we just talked to our staff about this. Like, we got to get the first game. That's what we're focusing on right now. The first game's the most important. And then, you get done with that road trip, and you got Omaha, who's been playing great, who we were fighting for with the seed. It could be us and them fighting for a higher seed. It could be like NDSU last year where maybe we're both in the 4-5 game and it maybe doesn't matter. And then you got South Dakota State who's battling, obviously just won at Oral Roberts, and they're trying to move up too. So it's a dogfight to try to slide up, and I think every game's important.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit earlier, during this 8-day stretch leading into the road trip, what have you focused the most on in practice, and kind of what's been the biggest, emphasis on practice?
Yeah, it's been us. The emphasis has been on us. I think a lot of teams get really focused on the other team and how do you win 3 games in 3 days by being great at what you do and not worried about the other teams, because you don't have a lot of prep time in between those games. We're most likely going to have to play 3 games in 3 days to try to cut the nets down. So, it's going to be a couple walkthrough things, but we got to be great at, doubling the post and protecting Cam if we need to do that. Our screen roll defense wasn't great in the second half against UND. Our rebounding we broke down and they got some key offensive rebounds that were like direct points where they just tipped it in and putbacks. So we got to improve on rebounding. We have to clean up some plays where maybe we didn't, fully execute the play that we were trying to run. So 100% has been on us. Today we're doing a lot of special team stuff where, like every game that we're playing in is predicted to be a very, very close game. So how do you win those games? By being great at the special teams. And I know everyone's like, special teams, that's football. Special teams is free throw box outs. It's a side out of bounds play. It's defending an end out for the other team and getting a stop. It's, understanding when to go for a 2-for-1. So all those things contribute to winning. And when you're supposed to play in so many close games, or they're expected to be close games, you got to be great with the special teams, because I firmly believe that wins and loses games for you. So I would say, 3 or 4 things, mostly about us, not so much about the other team, but we know we got to take a step in these next 2 weeks to get better for the conference tournament.
Yeah, and you're heading on the road to face Denver on Thursday and Oral Roberts on Saturday. 2 teams you've already beaten at home. What challenges do those teams present on their home floors, and how different do you expect those matchups to kind of look compared to the earlier meetings?
Well, the challenge is it's on the road. In winning in college basketball is hard. Winning on the road is even harder. Denver's been playing great. They have some momentum. I know they just lost at Omaha, but they beat NDSU. They beat UND, both on the road, which those are teams that we've lost to. They have some really good players. I said this before, but they have a little bit more depth now. They're playing a few more guys. They're kind of clicking at the right time and playing well towards the end of the season, which as a coach, that's what you want. You want to get better. Oral Roberts just got their first win in conference play, and all of their wins, I believe, other than maybe one neutral win, have been at home. So, they're much better at home, and they're going to be hungry for it too. I don't know if there's a way that they can climb out of the 8-9 game. I think there still technically is a possibility they can do that, and that's got to be their goal, to try to get a 7 seed. So both these teams are going to be really hungry, especially with us beating them at our place, and the challenges on the road, road environments. Denver's at elevation. Oral Roberts is going to catch us on the second road game on the swing, so it's going to be a huge challenge for us, no question.
All right, that's all I have. Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Adam, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. You've kind of touched on it previously in this press conference, although you said Denver and Oral Roberts are now playing well. For this team so far, with the 3-8 road record so far and a 6-6 conference record, although it's the end of this season and stuff, teams are starting to play better. But just going into this 2-game road trip with how it's team, the playing on the road has a bit of strength for this team so far, and with 2 teams with the losing record overall, how much important is it to get at least a split this road trip?
Well, I think it's important to try to win both games for us. I don't think we're looking at it like a split. In the road thing, I mean, it's sometimes frustrating to hear that. You look at the teams we played on the road. Played Creighton, played Missouri, played Kansas State, played at Wyoming. So you want 3 and 4. You take out those 4 games. That's 3 and 4 on the road. So you're almost 500. That's to be 500 on the road. You can still do a lot of things if you're 500 on the road. Other road games, we played NDSU and St. Thomas with basically 7 players. So you take those 2 games out of it. I would say we've actually been decent on the road against the teams that we're supposed to play with. So I don't really buy into that. We've won 3 straight on the road. When we've got some players back and we've added some players, we've been just fine. So I'm not buying into that hey, we're 3-8. You look at the teams we've lost to, basically playing 3 high majors and a Mountain West team in the hardest place to play in the country at 7,500 feet. So I'm not talking to our team about that. I'm not super worried about that. Denver and Oral Roberts is our focus, and I haven't talked to our team. I haven't talked to our staff about, hey, let's get a split. The focus is beating Denver and then going to Oral Roberts and beating Oral Roberts. That's the goal. We need to win these 2 games, and if we do, we get a little momentum going into the last 2 games at home.
And you've had a bye week, so the team has had time. It might not be on their mind much anymore, but how do you think the players feel about bouncing back from, you've mentioned close losses before, having that 1 point loss to North Dakota to bounce back from?
Yeah, we always watch film the next day. You talk about it, and then after we leave the film room, we move on. So I'm sure they're past it. Disappointing, obviously. We had 3 cracks at it at the buzzer to win the game, and we just are not at the buzzer last 10 seconds, and we just missed some shots. They executed the play that we drew up in the huddle. I thought Uzi might have had a layup, but he passed it. He skipped it to Jordan on a little hammer or flare screen. Jordan had a decent look at it. Eli King is one of the best defenders in our league, flew out there, contested it. Vince had a offensive rebound, point blank, missed it, and then Cam had a tip in, missed it. So we had opportunities. It was probably more disappointing that we couldn't get a stop at the end. I thought Vince did a really good job walling up at the rim with 2 hands up, and obviously they called a foul from half court, so that was a little disappointing in that we couldn't get stops, but we had every opportunity to win that game. So you shoot 4 for whatever from 3, you make one of those, it's an entirely different game. Make a couple free throws, it's a different game. So we had our chances, nothing we fully need to change. I think the most important piece is get our legs back and get some rest going into the final 2 weeks, and then obviously leading into the conference tournament.
And with the 6-6 conference record currently, with how you said they're on a 3-game road winning streak, with these with the way the schedule works now, with having 2 games on the road this week and then having 2 home games to cap off the regular season, how excited do you think the boys are for the opportunity to make a statement this week on the road? For winning 2 games would put you at 8-6 in the conference, and then come back and for the opportunity to finish the season strong at home with 2 games.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I'm not sure. Haven't really talked to him about that. I think the important piece at this point in the season is you just got to take it a game at a time, and you got to show up and do everything you can to beat Denver. And if you're lucky enough to win that game on the road, then you got to do the same thing against Oral Roberts. And I would say to win on the road, you got to win by 10 to win by 1, right? You got to be that much better on the road, and that's our focus right now, is just how can we show up and be good against Denver and take steps to get better. So if you can get better this week and you beat Denver, you can keep getting better, so it leads into the conference tournament. But I'm sure the guys are excited just to play any game. We still get to play, and it doesn't feel like there's 2 weeks left of the season. But I think mostly that is because we added some new guys at semester, and it doesn't feel like we've been playing very long with those guys. It kind of feels like a new team. So I think, just our team, anytime they get the opportunity to play is exciting for them. We got 2 guys that were on the couch, a month and a half ago that didn't get to play, and we're out of it. And I think the realization of our guys that, man, we got a lot of guys out and hurt, and I think they just feel fortunate that they're not hurt and that they do get to play. And I think the guys that are out have told them how lucky they are. So I think it's just an exciting opportunity to show up and practice, and then obviously get to play a couple games this week.
I think you said Denver and Oral Roberts are both going to be hungry because you've beaten them at home this year, and they're going to want to get the win at home against this team. Would you say that also makes your players hungry as well to be able to get the win against them on the road as well? Or do you think they're not thinking too much about that? They're just focusing on each game at a time this week, and they happen to be on the road?
1 game at a time. That's all we're focused on.
Right, that's all I got for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Go Yotes.